So are we streaming? Well, it says connecting just now. Let's just double check. If it is, hello. Give us a couple of moments, right? So make sure that the stream is live. Right? As always, just giving the first segment there a little bit of a time so that people can join and I can get settled down as well. Okay, from the devices, it looks like I am live. So if you are here early, okay, well, welcome to the forecast for the last month of the Wood Dragon year. But of course, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a moment for more people to be able to catch the live as well. And it's much welcome also because when you do that, you are contributing to the live energy, and of course, it just makes it so much better. And of course, I also hope for your interaction. Right, share with me anything that basically is brought up during the forecast, during the broadcast, as well as if you have any questions, right? So feel free to ask away. So this particular version, the outlook of every month, is something that I will endeavor to do, right? And usually, if I'm at my home base in KL, then of course you get this whole setup. And occasionally, when I'm traveling and I need to do the forecast at the beginning of each solar Chinese month, then I also will do that as well. Like I think in November. Was it November? December. December, I did it in Seville, Spain, right? So Lori Takashi is here watching from Japan. Hi, Lori. Thanks for saying hi. Just to confirm that the stream and the sound and the video is okay, right? I just appreciate if you can drop a confirmation on that. Anyone else, if you're watching this live, if you'd like to just give me feedback to make sure that this live stream, in terms of its video, in terms of its sound, is smooth, that would also be appreciated. Right? And of course, all your sharings, if you feel that this is something that will benefit your friends on your Facebook timeline, share away. That would also be wonderful so that, of course, there's a greater reach. And especially if there's a live viewing and participation, right? That would also, of course, help boost our energies as well. Thank you, Andrew, for that signal. Right? Hi to Tammy. Thanks, Laurie, for confirming that. I do appreciate it. And you get the prize for being first responder of the session, right? But anyway, I appreciate it, yeah? So yes, please share away this stream. Please share away this live, right, on your timeline and help me get the information out there. This is a very important month because we are finally at the end of the Wood Dragon year. And I was finalizing the updates, right? Because, it's such a busy period for us individually. There is, of course, the big annual talk that will be presented by Jesse this coming weekend. So, of course, there is that preparation for that. There are all the numerous preparations for the new year, which we already started from 2-3 months back, mainly. And then, of course, there are the work to be done as we approach Chinese New Year. And for me, of course, a lot of it is on consultations, which of course has to be timely, right? So I'm really trying my best. So if you had signed up for Partner Premium and awaiting your consultation, that is coming up from next week onwards as well, okay? Because it's got like a timeline to it, it's got a deadline, it's got an expiry because it is annual update basis, right? Hi to Vicky, hi Tammy, thanks for confirming that's loud and clear also. And if you've just joined us, I'm about to get started on the outlook for the last month of the Wood Dragon year, the January Ting Chou or Fire Ox month. Okay, so before you do that, right, just another chance to share this feed out live. And also, if you can also help me on my public page, if you're watching this on Jesse's page, for example, if you can come down to my page, my public page, and officially follow that, right, that will also be much appreciated because sometimes for certain things, for example, like corporate engagements and things like that, the numbers, right, have to be reported, right, in their management approval for any sort of appointments, any sort of booking as whatever, like it could be a speaker, it could be also for maybe audits and things like that. So that does matter on that basis. So if you're not following me officially on my public figure page, head down over to the Kong Yu page, right? That is different from my private one, okay? And follow on that page. I would appreciate that very much, right? Thanks so much. Now let's get started. This is finally the last month of the Wood Dragon year. And I was saying just now before I got a little bit sidetracked, right? As I was finalizing the forecast amidst all of this busyness, and this was really only in the past 48 hours or so, right? Because I also do a written forecast as part of our Soleil Trinity monthly newsletter. I was like having a bit of like a, oh wow, because this has been such an amazing year filled with amazing depth for transformation, right? And transformation, namely from healing, which is the keyword for the dragon. And of course, being at the opening of period 9, right? Every period 9 starts with the Jia Chen year, or the wood dragon year, right? So it's very significant because I think it's safe to say that if you're watching this, you're not like a little baby that was just born or very, very small child, right? And most likely, right, almost certainly, right, this would be the only period 9 that we would have, right, to experience. So that's why it's so powerful and it's so amazing in terms of the depth and the layers of what the year of the wood dragon that kicks off period 9 has been about and what it brings with it, with the opportunities for deep healing and of course the transformation that's associated with deep healing. Because when you heal, of course there are certain things that you will need to let go and release, and then of course there are certain things that you will at least initiate so that you can start the energy going, right, for whatever new that is to come for the remaining 19 years. So very powerful year. And of course we culminate in a very, very powerful month itself. Okay, so let's begin. So let's bring out the presentation material that I want to share with you. Now, of course, this full monthly forecast is in-depth. It is technical as well, right? Because it is something that I endeavor to share because whatever that we cover and whatever that we share out there, of course, always will have its roots and foundation in Chinese metaphysics of some form, right? And then, of course, we'll round it up by adding in different dimensions of from our research, from our insights when we basically just receiving information, right, from different sources. It could be from things that we read, it could be from research that we do, and also in just the activities that we do, right? So even in consultations, and even in research work, and even just travel, for example. So it's very inspiring, and at any moment, there could be a big aha, right, that basically gives us more insight and depth into something, right, some area of what we think about. And of course, our life is filled with metaphysics, right? So we're constantly on the thought and constantly on that mode. So it's very motivating. It keeps us going, and we are very blessed to be able to do so, and at the same time be able to bring that information out to all of you who follow us, right? So same for my monthly forecast, where we go into significant depth, and I endeavor to share as well from the technical basis on key things that basically point me to, right, into the layer of information for that month itself. So first up, okay, we are ending the last month of the year, and hence, of course, it comes right at the end of the official winter season. And of course, as defined, we will always define the seasons according to the Northern Hemisphere, because that's how the Qi basically works, and it's regardless of weather, right? How cold it is in the Southern Hemisphere, how hot rather, right, at this particular moment. It doesn't matter because it's always in absolute relation to the north, south, east, and west, which of course, on one perspective, is shifting, okay, because there's an axis shift that has been occurring in this great energy reset that we've been experiencing, especially from around the pandemic year, yeah? But officially, we are at the end of the year, of course, the last month of the winter month itself. Now, and it is the Fire Ox month that will kickstart in a few days from now. Okay, it's January 2nd now when I'm doing this update live on Facebook. And then when we get to January 5th, we will officially start the Fire Ox month, which lasts till February 3rd, which is going to be Lapchun, right? And of course, the transition of that is important because it's the first entry into the official solar brand new year of the wood snake, right? So it's on the evening before. It occurs on the night before for this current upcoming transition. So watch out for that, right? It is on the evening on February 3rd and not the 4th itself, yeah? But culminating this current solar year, right, of the wood dragon, Ding Chou. Of course, it is Ding Fire on top, and it is basically the ox that is the month animal sign for every January, right? And within the ox, of course, we have it as a main chi of Ji Earth, which is Yin Earth. That is like the bulk of it, the container, you can say, right? Every container is basically an earth animal sign, and you can see it like a capsule, okay, where, of course, most of the chi, most of the energy is defined by that as well, the capsule which is of the earth element. In this case, of course, yin earth is the capsule element, and then contained within this capsule is the storage for yin metal, and it is sin, right, in technical terms. And this is very significant for the transition into the snake month, right? If you know Chinese astrology, you know Bazi, you know any of the correlation of the elements, and of course with the correlation to the heavenly stems and the earthly branches, the animal signs, then you know why it is significant already. And remember, Chinese metaphysics is predicated on these same concepts of the 60 jiazi, the 12 animal signs, which are the earthly branches and so on, and it's all correlated the same way. So that's why it's a very, very rich and powerful subject. But just finishing off with this, right, contained within the ox, of course, is going to be the graveyard of Kui, water, because water comes to the end of the season and then it needs to be stored before the next element of, in this case, it will be the wood element, will take place, right? So that's why that's the descriptive of the fire ox. Now, what is significant, of course, is that if you look at it just from the pillar itself, right, then right here, Ting fire, which is basically the burning type of fire, right, that we experience on planet Earth when we talk about the fire element, and the fire element associated with earthly transformation, the creation of alchemy, which again, we talk about it again from the earthly perspective. Then of course this is the fire that does it for us. It's the fire that is about transformation, changing shape of other elements, be able to reshape and create new things, right? So this is all Ting fire. Now it is of course a bit vulnerable because as a pillar alone it's just sitting on the ox. So this is the combination of the 60 jiazi where Ting fire sticking out of cold, frozen earth, of course it's at its most vulnerable state. So it needs wood to keep it burning. And interesting enough, why did I pick up on this? Because that's the general Bazi astrology thing, right? It's because, of course, in the annual year, Tai Sui itself, the expiring, exiting one, saying goodbye now, which is the Jia Chen, which is the wood dragon, of course, contains wood on top. And then even with the entry, because Jia will give way to Yi wood, Yang wood to Yi wood, Yin wood, right, for 2025, right? So the new annual theme is signified by the Yin wood or the Yi wood that is on top of the snake. So they both are heavenly stems. That means they protrude on top, right? They sit on top of the pillar, right? Which can actually help this Ting fire. But of course, there is a caveat. How does it affect? Now, if we talk about practicality, now what does this mean, right? It just means that, this is the fire that is about creation. It's about the force of transformation, which is very important because we are at a very end of a very powerful transformative year, where transformation is one key word. And of course, the transformation that comes also allow us to heal, right? Because that's the root lesson or the energy that's contained within the dragon sign itself. So that's why it's very powerful. And what do we need when we want to transform, right? The element of fire. Well, what do we really need to be is determined, right? And of course, to be able to follow through. So any of these generally, right? The strength of determination, the strength of follow through, and in this period of time, the strength of committing, I sign up for something, I am going to do this, right? So that it requires us to commit. And when we do this, we need fire. Because if our fire is shaky, not very strong, it's weak, it's missing, etc., right? Then it is likely that we may not commit and we may shy away and we may not be able to power through with our determination. Especially for a month like January, because we need to make the final changes, the last remaining changes of release, letting go, so that we can completely adjust and welcome in. And only when we do that, we can really maximize the snake energy, right? So a large part of the emphasis of this month, Ting Chou, the January Fire Ox month, is with this, right? And because of that, one of the main agents that will be significant, right, is fire, the main element here, right? And of course, we see that it is again possibly encouraged by the fact that we have wood building on the annual energies, and then also for both years, 2024 and also 2025. Okay, so just real quick, hi to Christine, hi to Wei Ling, to Felicia, as well as Rika, and then also let me quickly update here on my page so that I'm also able to see any comments coming from here and also be able to address any questions here as well. Okay, so a quick hi to viewers on my side: Chui Ling, Mel Wee, Michelle Chin, right? And if you have any questions, any comments, right, feel free to just type in the comment box. Are you looking forward to the snake year? And have you felt the snake year energies because they've already come in since on this particular topic, right? First layer, of course, is with the clash month of the pig in November, right, which also brought with it Yi Wood, which is the theme of the year of the snake, right? It was also appearing with the month of the pig back in November. So that was the first entry, right, with a bit of a bang, a bit of an emphasis there on the magnifying energies of this particular snake-pig clash. Then the second layer, of course, winter solstice, right, occurring, I think it was for this year, this recent past a point of solstice. It was on December 21st, so that brings in another layer of the snake energy. And then, yes, January does it as well, right? Another main chunk before February welcomes it in a very indirect way. Okay, so we leave that till February because entering into the snake year, okay, from January, of course, welcomes it on another layer, so it brings in another layer of energy quite strongly, in fact, right? I'll share that with you in a few moments. And then, of course, February welcomes it in a very indirect way, right? Because straight away you get one of the so-called Fan Tai Shui months of the year, right? With the snake. It occurs right at the entrance of Lap Chun, which again is very particular with the snake year, right? So that's why it is not a smooth entryway. Whatever that basically we've been experiencing with the transition into the snake year requires us to also honor the dragon's transformative power, and with that we need to tap. We should have been, right, because right now it's already finishing. We should have been tapping into the depths of transformation and deep healing if we really want to free up our energy, right, for not only the snake year, there's one layer of it, but also for the rest of a better and more maximized period 9 overall, right? So, yes, right? As I again go into the depths of how significant is this Ox month, right? I urge you to also really be open to exploring at the deepest level what needs to change, with that possibly what needs to be let go, and how you need to change and modify your modus operandi, how you work, how you shape things, what do you expect, and of course honor whatever new that has transpired for you in this past 5 years, right? Because there has been a very big push towards a realignment and change, and for many of us it's on many different levels, right? Of course, on the biggest level will be like really life revamping, changing like key aspects of life. And then for many people, of course, is the knowingness and the awareness that certain behavior, certain attitudes, it's very period 8, okay, or period 7, just for simplicity's sake, right? And to work with period 9 and to be able to thrive and to be able to find that joy, because Rika said, right, the word joy there, right? We have to be aligned with the overall energies of the period. But to do that is not to say that we just basically act like fire and we try to suddenly, turn different aspects of our personality, like those that are supporting the energy of period 9 to emphasize more of that, and then those which basically keep us at a disadvantage for period 9, do less of it or be less like that. It's not about only that, because if you do that alone, right, this behavior change may not have the anchor, right, that it needs to be sustainable. That's one, and then also to have its depth, because energy is energy, right? You cannot fake it. You can fake certain things, but if you don't realign and adjust with that thing that you're faking towards, then it doesn't last. Okay, it doesn't last. It's like an actor or actress getting into a particular character and a mode, and because they have a little bit of that energy, right? Everybody normally, right, who is a good actor or actress, they will have a seed of the character that they're playing. It may not be their overall basic personality that is very strong and dominant, but there's a seed of it, and then they just bring it out and they amplify it. Now, of course, the ones which are in roles which normally fit their main dominant personality, of course, it's easier, but it's not so, it's not such a great acting job, right? But I truly believe that whoever who is able to switch and get into characters easily already have the one seed of it. So that seed has to be amplified. That seed has to be thrown away in the case of discarding or release of it because it doesn't serve the person, or it has to be amplified because it needs to be a strength to be developed. Okay, and sometimes a strength that can be developed starts very small, right? And that's why generally in Partsy there is that, right? There is the way, the method to emphasize a favorable element, and a favorable element in a normal chart or average chart is usually not a strong element. So that's why it needs to come from real. It needs to come from something that is real, right? Something that is down there, and then by virtue of that, we're able to work on it and build it up some more, activate that energy some more. But if it's not there to begin with, or the other perspective, if it's something that needs to be discarded and changed, then that has to be dug up, thrown away, thrown out, so that then it makes space for the more positive vibrations to expand. Okay, so that's why at the end of the day, the deeper you go, the higher you'll be able to propel towards, right? That's why what we share, the information is of a certain depth, and then also what we preach and what we also try to align to be as much in practice as possible, right? Okay, because I'm also a work in progress myself, is also to make sure that it is aligned towards the depth of who we are and what we want to become, as opposed to trying to take shortcuts, which only work temporarily. But again, because period 9 is so immediate karmic in its way, right? So it will show that whatever that is of the shortest term and whatever that is not long lasting and doesn't come from the core and the depth, right, of the energy patterns, right, is not going to be at its best, and is not going to last. So that's another the characteristics of this. Now, we are saying sayonara to the wood dragon, of course, okay, and let's not dwell too much time on that, but its significance in relation to the last month of the year. So here's another one, right? Because namely the interaction between the annual dragon and with the monthly ox, right, is not a smooth relationship. It's not like a combination. It's not neutral. It is a destruction, right? So it is an opportunity for us to change, release, and thus realign, right? Now, realign from what perspective? Then we look into the core energy pattern of the year, which is the dragon, okay, which is supposed to give us the opportunity to leap into the new perspective, leap into the new life, leap into period 9, right? Because it starts off the year. But to be able to do so, we have to be aligned. We have to have certain achievements and attainment in terms of our energy. And of course, we have to be able to discard as well. Because by getting rid of, by letting go, it's a part of change because it allows for the new to come in, right? So that's why a destruction allows us to do that as well. Now, naturally, when we want to be at our best, then the destruction can really be almost like avoided, right? That means it does not have to come to a destruction for us to be able to, maximize our energy. Or rather, if you look at it from the other perspective, we don't have to if we are already at whatever level, right? A optimum level, a pretty high level of managing the energy, right? That is tested in our animal science. In this case, let's say between the dragon, okay, and then the ox. If you have these two, either one or both, right, in your personal parts, we see it, of course, happening in the annual pillar with the month pillar, but it's a reflection, of course, of our own charts. And because of that, it is an activation for our charts as well. But if you have both, then of course it's even more pertinent, more relevant to your life and your karma and what it is that you need to release and let go of so that you can align your energy better. Then in this case, we use the adjustment afforded by the destruction, because when there is a destruction, there is a shift. There is a change that, yes, it is not as big as a clash, okay, but it's still a change nonetheless, right? So it's like a half clash, for example. So if the energy isn't clear enough, then of course the destruction will happen. There will be a shake-up, there will be a change. And it's not only mirrored in the annual to monthly pillar and the timing of the current, but it's also very much emphasized when we look into the planetary alignments overall, of which for myself I look into the transits of the planets based on the Western astrology perspective of transits. Okay, so you find when I get there, then it will not only emphasize this, because sometimes it may not exactly tally at the same time, but for January, it definitely does. Okay? Now, final thing, right, on this. Why final growth? Because you see, when you get to the cycle normally of the 12 animal signs, right, for example, if you look at it from the year, so when we move from the year of the ox into the year of the tiger, for example, and then if we look into the transition from the rat year into the ox year, which happened during the pandemic 2 years, right? That is when we're supposed to be forced to discard whatever that we don't want to carry for the next cycle, right? And then we want to be able to release that so that we don't carry energy that, or a concept, for example, right? Or it can be anything, okay, that holds us back. So we want to be able to detach and release. So that's already is the theme for the ox. And then, of course, we have this annual thing where we move from New Year, pre-New Year to the New Year, and then we look into the New Year from the Chinese solar calendar perspective. Same thing, right? We're not supposed to take crap or whatever that doesn't serve us anymore from the previous year, and then we carry it into the next year, right? You may have seen a joke, a meme on this where someone said that take your final poo, right, on December 31st so that you don't carry shit into the new year. So it's the same concept, right? But of course, when we look into this, it's 1 month, it's not the Gregorian calendar, it's 1 month away, right, from the ox to the tiger, which I'm talking about the monthly basis, right? So right at this cusp, when before the ox month, January, moves into the tiger month of February, you have this activated by the dragon year itself. Okay, so this destruction, another opportunity to change, and it's more prominent compared to another year that doesn't any year that's not the year of the dragon does not have the destruction. Of course, it's the year of the goat. Then there will be a major clash there before we enter the brand new year itself. Okay, so that's why final growth, right? And because the dragon has been the anchor point of healing, deep healing that's afforded, and any transformation that basically allows us to heal, or healing that comes from transformation, because it works both ways, right? Some aspect of your life will be transformed when you heal. And 2024's full year has given us that opportunity to do so, right? So that's why now another push towards this, so that we can finally release and we can finally grow, because the dragon also is anchoring growth that will soon be manifested. So I've talked about it at length already, but that's how this last shake-up, this last rearrangement, change, release, and realignment, right? It really is about final growth from the wood dragon year perspective. Now, what if we look ahead, okay, slightly ahead to the wood snake perspective. Okay, so similarly, right now, of course, the shift of the theme of the year is now shifting ever since November to yin wood, right? So from the structural pillar as a strength of foundation, starting out period 9, right? So in 2024, we're supposed to grow this big block of jia wood, yang wood, a very solid, upright structure that is supportive, which means that then we use it as the support pillar for whatever else that we want to shape for the upcoming years. Starting from the transition into the next year, the second year, right, where now is yi wood. Yi wood is now branching off. So from this main pillar, we branch. Okay, so that's the development here, right? That means we develop the foundation that we've already built on, but more into the sideways basis. That's what it's supposed to do. Now, is it very convenient and easy to do so in the snake? Not really. Okay. Overtly, of course, you see that the Yi Si itself is quite a beautiful pillar on its own, right? So more will be shared during the annual talk. Okay, the link is there in case for some strange reason you have not signed up for the annual talk, which is happening this weekend, January 4th, English, January 5th, Cantonese. That's presented, of course, by our founder, Jesse, my partner as well. So we're finalizing a lot of information on that. This will be emphasized, okay, during that talk. But as a nutshell, on the surface, you look at it, it's wow, so beautiful, right? There is sunlight, and then there is, of course, the wood that's growing there. But, of course, right, so there is some, nuances, some other elements which are there, which may not be that supportive of wood. So what does that mean? Okay, so we will find out more during the annual talk, and we'll find out a bit of it, right, for the rest of this monthly forecast for January. Okay, so if we stack January 2025 against the wood snake, even though, of course, It's not officially in the wood snake yet, but we know that from the entrance of the energy, right, we're now probably at about 70 to 80% of the wood snake energy already, right? And then the remainder will just come on once we go into February, right? Now, this is astrologically, okay? Astrologically. Feng Shui-wise, because it's earth-based, it is going to be slower than the heavens energy or universal energy, right? So that one will occur roughly at the end of January, right? Okay, into, of course, February itself. So that one, there will always be a delay, right? Because our material or earthly energy is much denser compared to the purity of the heavens energy or the universal energy, okay? That comes again from originates in outer space lah, okay? The sun is our queen of our orbit, the star of our solar system and so on, okay? So we can stack this together as well, and there will be a pattern here that comes out, right? So we know now, Yi wood also feeds sting fire, okay? In fact, it's immediate, because Jia wood, which is here, okay? All right, I haven't explicitly pointed out, right? Jia wood can feed ting fire, but it needs keng metal to chop it. To take a big log or big chunks of wood, you cannot just try to light it up with a match. You cannot light a big log with a, just a standard lighter, okay? Even the pretty big ones, the powerful ones that we use for cooking and all that, or when we light, we light anything else, right? We cannot just burn it like that. It will take very long or it will not combust. Right? In the old days, of course, we talk about ting fire being burning fire already. So when we throw it into a big pile of big pieces of wood, logs and all that, it will not burn, it will be snuffed out. Okay, that's why we need to chop the big wood, okay, big pieces of it or the big logs into smaller pieces so it can actually burn. So that's why we need the chopping agent, which is typically seen as keng metal, right? So that's one key, okay, for how this fire can be fed. So this fire needs to be fed because remember, it is the fire that powers our motivation, our drive, and our determination to see through our commitments, to see through these changes that we want to make. If not, we will run away from it, or we will run away from the decision to change or to make that release, and we will also not be able to carry it forward, to carry it through. That means we say we want to do, and then we maybe initiate it, and then we just don't have the guts and the determination enough to push through. For this, we need to be fired up. Right? And fire is exposed, it's vulnerable. To keep it strong, we need to emphasize it with Jia wood, which is basically the growth that we've been planting and seeding and growing all year round. But number one, it's a little bit wet, and number two, do we have the action to support it? Do we have the strong masculine decisiveness that is keng metal to do it? Right? Then, of course, it's different. Right? People are energetically different. Generally, it means that if you are more keng, you have more of that energy, you have either it in the original self or you have developed it through your years, then it'll be easier to follow through with all it'll be easier to stay fired up, to make those changes, to reach really deep into your psyche so that you can push through with the final realignment of January. Right? That's what it means. And of course, in relation to the whole snake year is a very, 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 strong picture. You will see that's correlated to whatever I'm talking about, right? Again, right? Make sure you come to the annual talk this weekend, okay? And follow through with whatever updates that we do, and then follow through with whatever workshops that are emphasizing the year's energy. Of course, Power Up is one main one, lah. Okay, that is also coming up in the later part of January as well, yeah? So this one we already covered just now. The snake is not so straightforward, right? In terms of the support, okay, that it gives to Yi wood. Because here you see this, right? If we talk about stacking up January fire ox month itself in correlation to the year that's almost fully here already, even though officially it's not yet here, right? So you see this, there is a combination between the snake, okay, and then the ox itself. And this is a welcoming. So that's why you see my title, Let the Snake In, right? Because it's welcoming in the snake also. That's why I say January adds on that another major layer of the snake energy, because it actually pulls it in. And when it pulls it in, then of course it wants to, it's anchoring down on metal, okay? Because the snake is in a family called the metal element family with the ox and also the rooster. And the snake and the ox are the ends of it, which in parts of terms if you studied some of it at least, right, you know that it will push out the leader, which is the rooster. So there's an image of the rooster that's already forming as we speak, as we march, we walk, and we slither into January. That's why one of the keys that I was talking about ever since the first quarter of last year, 2024, right, is how do we tap into this power of the rooster, okay? And of course, in my personal consultations, I emphasize that if it's relevant to you through, of course, your 八字 chart, then of course, we worked with that, okay? And now, of course, coming into the month of January, right, this becomes another highlight because we don't, work with, we don't work with everything, every element the same way throughout the year, right? We have to look into timeliness and the timeliness of it. So, but January, the rooster is quite prominent. Okay, in what way? It's a little challenging to explain generally, okay? But we know that it is able to basically reconceptualize, right? Because you see, the snake is containing the seed of growth for metal. Okay, that's why it is all together in one family, right? And then the rooster itself is the main energy of metal, and the ox and the toe, in this case, is the end of the cycle of metal, which means that it is the expiry, because it's the storage, right? It's right when it almost disappears, goes into extinct, and then after that you store it. That's why it appears there in the ox. But now, right, one basically advances. The snake is the growth. That means it contains the potential for it. Okay, it advances with the push here. Okay, because the metal combination pushes out the rooster. Okay, and one basically reverses back. You see, right? One goes to create it, and one goes back to reverse to its original main position. So that's why I call it reconceptualizing, right? So you can actually, and of course the concept, reconceptualizing actually is a mental energy. And then if you analyze, if you know Western astrology, you know that Mercury is water-based, but it's also very mental, okay? And so on and so forth. And then in working together with several other planets like Venus, for example. So this is why it is an important cusp, and it anchors down our ability to shift our mindset. Because mindset shift is one of the key ones, right? Because with that, then you don't have a mindset shift that is true. That means true means you really believe in it. Okay, that it needs to shift, and it will shift towards whatever it might have to be, right? If you don't have it, then it's not going to ground any sort of behavioral change, right? Because you simply don't believe it, right? You have to first believe it first. Then only you can follow up with the determination, with the action repeated enough so that it creates a new pattern, which eventually becomes a habit. And then with this new pattern and habit is continuous activation of energy, right? So then the change will be more long-lasting and so-called permanent for whatever it is that we're changing. But it has to start from the mindset shift to begin with, perspective shift, thinking differently, and not forcing it. It has to be organic. It has to come from within yourself, right? So this basically gives us that opportunity to do so, okay? Very strongly. So that means if you're ignoring the need to shift, if you are denying it, if you are, instead of shifting, you're running away from it and you don't want to see it, there's no way for you to truly believe and want to shift your mindset in whatever it is that you need to change to begin with, okay? But the month allows us to do so with the incoming snake, and it's welcoming because you see it's part of a combination, right? Then only you can really embrace the wood snake, especially the snake itself per se, okay, into the game, into the full mode of what you want to. So as we welcome the wood snake in all those Chinese New Year ways, right? Practitioner Jesse says this, right? I say this, whoever else, you know who they are, right? The big names, and many of you follow Dato' Joey Yap, and so on, who's like my one and only Sifu in real life. Okay, the rest of it is either from my own research and also from my own learnings and growth in the field itself, right? But he's my one and only human being Sifu, right? And of course, Jessie acknowledges that herself as well, right? So anyway, but besides that, of course, there's so many updates now, and in a way, it's very exciting also, right? Because it's, wow, everybody's sharing and all that. And a lot of senior students are also developing themselves either as full-fledged consultants, or they're slowly building towards that. And it's very exciting to see, okay? So that's why you want to make full use of the snake, you have to work with the energy of January, the fire ox month in particular, and also go through all of this, right, as the best that you can, so that you can truly maximize the upcoming year itself, okay? And then, of course, there are ways to do it from the annual feng shui perspective as well. So, like in my Manifest Your Life 2024, March, this is in March of last year, right? I already highlighted this for you, for all the participants, right? Activate, I think it's January 28th now. Of course, I did not manage to put all this info, but I'll follow up later because it comes on only towards the end of the month, right? So that's a big day there, okay? And of course, it is very significant, and it has many multi-tiered use, and you will see some of it being revealed also, right? As we go through the rest of January itself. But what it is clear as well, this is on a different note, okay? Yes, the rooster sector is important. In fact, it was important all throughout 2024, but it is a 5 yellow sector. So that's why for the annual feng shui perspective, it's much more difficult to use, to do activations in the sector, but it's always been a very powerful part of our energy pattern, astrologically, and also even, let's say, if we talk about the space of the rooster sector in your space, your living area, your office, whatsoever that you define, all throughout 2024. And similarly, it will still be powerful in 2025. But what is not supported is the key element of growth, right? So here, of course, you see one of the things that I mentioned up there, right? Ting fire can immediately feed on yeet wood. Yes, because it burns immediately. It's not long lasting, but it burns immediately. But here, with this so-called metallic emphasis on the branches, on the animal signs, right? Because they all form together to combine into a metal-based combination, right? So that's going to cut the wood. So again, right, the flickering of the fire is one thing to overcome in January itself, and of course, even in the first beginning part of February or so, because it's still cold and wet. And at the same time as well, it is also shaping up to be the fact that the snake on its own, right, when we talked about the working with the Grand Duke, which is an emphasis on working with the 4 so-called Fan Tai Shui, offending Grand Duke animal signs, right? The special that I did with Jesse at the end of December, right? So that was a few days ago. That emphasizes that the how to work with this, the Grand Duke, and also the maximization. So if you have not watched that, please do, because that tells us one key energy pattern of the snake and how best to maximize and work with it. One key thing, of course, is the pink fire that's dominant in the snake, right? It's supposed to be as bright as possible. It's supposed to be the leader. It's supposed to be inspirational. It's supposed to be supporting life overall, because that's what the sun does in our solar system, right? So that's why the ability to do this and the challenges that block us from doing this to the maximum level is one thing to manage for the snake yet, okay? Because it is vulnerable, right? Fire, not only is Ting fire vulnerable when it's exposed, but Peng fire is vulnerable as well, because it can easily be transformed to many other elements. In this case, it feeds and fuels metal, so then the fire is lowered and is dissipated, it's weakened, okay? It also, of course, easily transforms to its opposite element, water, right? Ironically, right? But that's why it's such a multi-layered animal sign, and it's so exciting in that way as well, okay? So, and that because of this, again, it can lose its fieriness, it can lose its warmth very, very easily. And at the same time, right, the seed of metal, when it's activated here and there and throughout certain months of the year, is going to continuously cut the yeet wood. And yeet wood, of course, is easily to be cut because it's like, twines and so on and so forth, right? So that's why that's going to be another layer to manage it, which means that the growth of the lateral growth of that is signified by yeet wood. Yeet wood is about growing sideways, right? Diversification, branching out, for example. These are all the yeet wood terms, right? Is going to have a cut to it. But if we understand how to use it, it just means that it will give us the opportunity to edit, right? Develop, cut, change. Develop, cut. It's literally like editing something. Okay, so that's why one way to work with the energies of Yi Si 2025 is that, right? So another layer of the usage there. But We will go into deeper depths, of course, throughout the workshops that will be shared, starting with the annual talk here, and of course, all the information that is available on Facebook Live, through our Reels, through our social media. And of course, speaking of which, we also have Power Up that's coming up on January 18th. And then also I am starting to finalize some details of my annual workshop, which is Manifest Your Life, of course, 2025, right? Where we'll work deeper into it. I don't have the firm dates and thus the ability to commit to a date for you to commit to yet, but they will be coming up as well in the coming 1 to 2 weeks, so watch out for that. So I really hope you can join me for that workshop when it is finalized and made available for you to sign up. Okay, so going back to this, whatever it is as well, we see there is a hidden element of that metal that is a very profound for 2025, right? And at the same time, if we look into the other aspects of the annual feng shui, overall, it does not support wood sector activations. Hence, that's why my emphasis on activating wood, which is all about growth and expansion. Okay, it doesn't matter how it directly relates to your chart. Wood is wood. Okay, it will, of course, it will tell a different layer of the story in relation to your chart. Yes. Okay, but it doesn't matter because overall, if you just take the energy of expansion and growth, Jia Wood, which is the expiring energy with the dragon, is about the pillar structural support. So that's why building that and having that as strong and sturdy as possible, of course, will give us upper hand, upper leg, upper lift into period 9. It's just as basic as that. That's why non-stop lecturing about Jia Wood, but now it's the end lah. Okay, not much to do anymore, right? We should have really maximized Cao Cao for November and also December, which I think for many of you following us closely, you did do that. So good, right? That means whatever expansion work you do, whatever growth, this is setting the foundation, building the structure. It's the growth in relation to this. It's not growth to capture more numbers. It's not that type of growth, right? It's not growth to finalize and close a lot of sales. It's not growth from that perspective, but it's the growth on building a strong structural foundation. And I know many of you did that and initiated that, so that's good, because then you will be at a much more advantage going into the snake year from February onwards especially, right? Now back to this. So that's why we see, because you see all these growth, these greenish to green sectors, they're all related to growth and also wood element. So first of all, you have high, which is basically pig, boar. It is the seed of wood. Just like snake is the seed of metal, right? It's very unique that way. But high, which is pig, of course will be, right? It will be chong, right? It will be the year breaker is going to be opposing the snake, right? Because that's what they are. They are a pair that's clashing there. Now, of course, this clash, how to handle it, one layer was already discussed in the How to Tame the Grand Duke special that I did with Jesse. So again, rewind that, watch it. It's posted in my timeline as well. Then you see how to handle this clash. And it's a very beautiful clash. I think I will describe it that way. How to handle it, look into that FB Live again. And at the same time as well, yes, there is a possible magnification effect to it. Okay, possible magnification, but it has to be used, of course, at a deeper level. That's one. Second of all, of course, from the oppositional perspective, especially when we talk about the annual feng shui. Okay, astrologically, it can be enhanced in a certain way, and it can be used, this particular opposition energies. But on the ground, when it's in relation to feng shui, it's harder to do that. Now, of course, you can still do it, but again, it has to be a very personalized application. Okay, then only you have to see whether or not it's something that suits your energy pattern, and where you are at this particular point in terms of readiness. And then, of course, it can still be activated. But generally, in this oppositional Chong position, Chong Tai Sui position, it's not the best and the most easiest, and is generally not advised to do that, because there will be some outflow of energy, and there will be some outflow energy, right? Whether in terms of energy that you use, that you have to expend out, or it can also literally be a breaker to cash flow and so on, because that's a main form of energy in our modern world, right? Which means that some expenditure might leak out, because year break is about that. So that's why activation-wise, we cannot, as a simple rule of thumb, activate the year breaker sector, which is in pig, which is the growth potential sector, right? Now then we look into tiger, same story there, right? A different way. The tiger is, of course, the peak of prosperous growth, which is the root and the energy to Jia Wood, because Jia Wood rooted on the tiger is where it draws on the battery. It's battery, right? So the tiger, even though again, right, if you look into how auspicious is the tiger sign, and hence whatever annual stars that fly to it, it's not bad. Okay, because the fortune, virtue, star, etc., etc. So the outlook for the tiger is generally not bad. But of course, it's going to harm the snake. So there's one already, right? There's going to be an ungrateful punishment that is activated. Again, watch that special Facebook Live that I hosted with Jesse. And at the same time, from the feng shui perspective, it sees the 5 yellow star, right? 5 yellow star combined with yin, tiger, very, very big energy there. The issue is whether anyone who is not a major energy dynamo, right, that we see in, people who have big lives generally, okay, can handle or not. So again, to play safe, right, normally we do not activate the 5 yellow per se. So that's why, again, it does not support activation per se. Then the whole 3 killings from the tiger all the way to East 1 Jia to the rabbit, East 2, then East 3 Yi Wood, basically, and into Chen, even the Grand Duke where it's exiting, right? That is all going to be part of the 3 killings, okay, for 2025, the snake year, right? And generally what it means that snake is part of the metal family, and the metal family is against the wood areas. So that's the interpretation and explanation for 3 killings in a simplified fashion, okay? And that combined with the fact that we also don't have, and peculiar only with the year of the snake, we also don't have easy access to the pig sector as well, which carries the growth potential of growth, which is the wood element itself. So that's why, right, now it's too late to basically work with the wood energy. Of course, upcoming 10 to 15 days, for example, you will still have the opportunity to do so. That's why for my Parts Premium clients existing, as in for 2024 and also for 2025, we have this emphasis that we needed to emphasize wood sectors, especially if wood is a favorable element and a needed element, right? And then, of course, we have to do it by safely the first half of January 2025 itself, okay? So that's why, right, if you have been contemplating basically of subscribing to Parts Premium, basically it's a elevated Parts Consult. It is still going to go deep into your Parts chart from the deepest, longest term level for breakthroughs and life lessons there. But then towards the second half of the session, we will focus into the annual, which is the snake year itself. And then, of course, we catch up, right, on how best to activate energies either by ourselves, right, and also using the possibilities of the annual feng shui there. So that's why this particular consult, this particular service is only offered at the end of every year and then also at the beginning part, namely January only. So that's why it will expire very soon. And if you were thinking of basically subscribing to it, then please do so now. And if you do this within this coming few days of this broadcast, then of course we'll be able to do the consultation slot, right, by around the 13th of January onwards, because I have a few appointments already lined up, right, for this coming week on this particular thing, right? But I'm not, you can share it on there first, but we'll just, I need to finish off the slides first, okay? So I just intersect with that because we're talking about the annual feng shui and how the wood sectors are expiring, okay? So now, what else leads us and helps us? Now, sometimes, of course, the full moon energy is a complement, which means that it is, it will contradict a little bit about the monthly energy, and then we have to see how we manage this contradiction, right? But in this case, the upcoming full moon, right, on the 14th itself, right now, the overall theme of the full moon is emphasizing nurturance, okay? Because right at the start of the year, it's all about getting out and starting, right? Ready, set, go, right? Every January and February, it's about that. The full moon comes in, whatever it is, the full moon that's occurring on Chap Gome, the 15th of the lunar Chinese year also, it always comes into contrast normally as a generalization. It comes in to balance the energy. It means that, oh, we're starting the year, we want to establish and get right off the speed block, they call it, and run the race to the first out of the block, the fastest to do that will win the race, right? That's what we generally believe in, right? That's why the start of the year is usually emphasizing that, the yang energy. This is very different. The existence of the dragon starting off period 9, okay, Coco, right? And then also continuing with the second year of the wood snake does not support this. Okay, what we believe that we want to do every year coming from January 1st is what? Work on and activate our New Year's resolutions, right? Yeah, provided the resolutions work with the energy of the dragon and the snake lah. Then it's okay, those resolutions. But the standard ones about, I'm going to achieve this, I'm going to start this, I'm going to do that, they don't, not, or generally not supported by the current energies, yeah? So anyway, but this full moon, because it occurs, like I said, generally the moon will come and give you a yin balance to the yang, right? Activation, the sun-powered activation for the month itself, right? And then the full moon comes in and gives a nice balance to it. But in this case, the yang balance is not encouraged, right? It is discouraged, but that's why the full moon actually supports this, right? It works hand in hand with this, right? It connects to the feminine, the Venus, right, planet itself, right? As you will see, right, it's in, again, a water sign, and the deepest water sign that is marking the depths of our spirituality overall, right? Mars, planet Mars, has been slowly undergoing a transformation as well, all from December onwards, right? There is a easier release of the ego, softening of the ego that's been happening ever since December. Started, of course, at towards the second half of November. So as we continue to January, February, it's the same, right? This Mars, which is our masculine principle of individuality, what we want to achieve, our personal drive, egoic wants and so on, right? So that's undergoing a softening process. So it's beautifully happening now. On one perspective, you can also see it is healing the masculine in all of us, right? Especially the wounded part, right? And then now, of course, we still have a very strong anchor to depth and spirituality, right? So that holds us in as long as we look into it, right? Because for those who are not so deep, and those who are in a way not looking into the meaning of life, how we fit into this grand scheme of thing that we call life, how our souls are part of many, many energy forms in the universe, all these more general, higher level way of looking into life, right? So if you don't have the anchor, then it's easy to get lost, okay? But one thing to take note of, right? There is going to be a strong sense of resistance if we follow the logic brain and we follow reasoning, okay? So for example, the year's beginning is supposed to be all about being the first to start, right? The year beginning is all about, the energy of, okay, we have to initiate now, okay? But nothing supports it energetically, unfortunately, for this beginning year. So that's why if we just go on like, oh, it should be that way, or we are, in companies that have structure and goals and plans and all that, right, that are not in tune with astrological energies, right, it's going to be in conflict of this. So that's why even for yourself, right, you need to trust that you need to do this. You need to do this last in-depth look, and with that in-depth look is to emphasize, activate, and enforce the changes that still need to be urgently done, okay, from all those perspectives and for all those reasons that we've talked about throughout tonight, right? Then we just look into the finishing patterns here, right, and how, yes, everything seems to support it from the planetary movement perspective, right? So we have Venus move into the deeper sign, which is Pisces. Venus is already our innate feminine, right? And Pisces is the last animal sign associated with, have you grown spiritually before you hit the next cycle? So it's like the anchor to the year where we are at as well, right? From the timing, regardless of what calendar we use, okay? Just that our start is delayed, okay? Then we have Mars in Cancer retrograde. I already spoke about that. And then remember the possible trip, the Sun is about our outward energy, what we are living and striving to do outwardly, right? That is in the very masculine sign of Capricorn, and it's supported. Sun in Capricorn means it's the season of the year, it's the animal sign of the current timing. But Mercury joins it, and Mercury is all about logic, it's about reason, it's also activating our feelings and emotions coming from our mind patterning, right? That is all again about, now I have to establish myself, I have to start the year strong, blah, 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 and all that kind of thing, right? So that's also going to be from January 8th onwards when Mercury enters Capricorn. So that's why we have that. The outwardness, the masculine, the energy that is our day-to-day life. Not so much the one that's driving what we want, but the one that is about getting things done on a day-to-day basis. And then we have the logic brain, the analysis of what planet Mercury activates in all of us, the mental energy, right, and our emotional world as well, all wants to set things out right. So the best way to do it is think longer term. It's not about serving what is upcoming for this year, but it's really for the rest of the remainder 18 plus months, 18 plus years of period 9. Right? Think from that perspective and what needs to be done in terms of letting go, release, and adjustment. Right? Not about like setting the goals for the year already and things like that. Right? So remember, these two will work in opposition. But the core energy, the strongest energies are all emphasizing depth and the need to realign and to readjust so that we can have a better upcoming 18 years. So it's not just about the snake year per se as well. Yeah? But what helps, again, like I said, the ego, if we are open to it, if we are aware, right? Because if we are not, then of course it is always our blockage and our tripping point, right? From so many perspectives, the ego does that. But that one, in terms of our selfish desire, personal goals, that has the support of the whatever movement of Mars into this like retrograding, and then retrograding from Leo, which again powers individuality, right? So that's moving backwards. That means retracing it, softening it, and finally, okay, from January 7th onwards, it will also enter Cancer, which again is about nurturance overall, right? Not about the masculine establishment of roles, responsibilities, and commitments so much, which is the outer energy of this part of the year, but then it will be about what needs to be the yin complement to that. So we have that as an anchor. Then what supports the change, okay, the energy of change and enforcing it. It means you have to actually be strong and determined enough to make that change, to release whatever old, and so that it allows for new. And also this will entail and involve shakeups, right? Because if you suddenly change the dynamics, you sever, you cut off, or you just shift the dynamics of a particular relationship between two people, two parties, two companies, whatever it is, it's going to be a shakeup, okay? And what supports this from this planetary perspective is that planet Uranus, right? It's also about shakeups to be able to up level, right? Jumping from one level to another requires you to let go. And with this letting go, there will be a shakeup because the energy of that change reverberates to the people and the connections and the linkages around you, right? So this one is now slowing down as we speak, and it's a very far off planet. So when it starts to slow down, means we will look like from planet Earth, right, about to achieve the opposite. So it's been in retrograde, which means that we have, for many months now, in a more like, okay, yes, the shakeup is needed, the adjustment is there, but in retrograde, it is not severe. It is kept under wraps. It's just like a thought. It's just like something that is being analyzed and being prepared for, right? So now this is going to now go forward. So from retrograde, it's going to move forward. And from when it goes forward is when the shakeups and the changes are out realized from the outer perspective. That means they're actually done. It's not just about thinking about it, analyzing it, feeling that something is wrong and needs to be changed. Now the energy of change is about to be activated. Now officially it's activated when Uranus goes forward. Now in what sign? Taurus, okay? But it's a forward movement and it starts on January the 30th. But because this is a very far outer planet, right? So you will feel its energy shift. And because now it is what they call slowing down in the retrograde perspective, and it's slowing down to move forward. Okay, so from here, it's starting to go here. This is where the point where it changes to go forward, and then here it goes forward, right? So because of the fact that it's a very far out planet, right? So it takes its time to slow down. That means that if it will start to feel, right? You will start to get the activation of the energy of change earlier, right? From at least a few weeks from January 30th, which is about now, okay? And then after that, when it gets to the station points, it goes retrograde, stops, and then it goes forward. That station point is usually where the shakeups will be seen one. The strongest energy of change will be there. So that means around the end of the month, January 30th, right, you will see played out in the world events, there will be this big changes and big shakeups that will take place. And then after that, of course, ensuing into the next 1 to 2 weeks, then it stabilizes after that. So, which means the end month really supports whatever changes and the shakeups that we need to make And it already starts in January, but the strongest energy is towards the end of the month. Now, all of this, right, is occurring during Chinese New Year season. So it's kind of weird that way, okay? But it just is, and we just have to work with it the best that we can, which means also expect bumps, okay? Changes, non-conventional Chinese New Year Luna, okay, for you as well, right? Because it is an overall energy that is present, okay? And best if we work with it, not against it. But also from the logistics perspective, because it's the Chinese celebrations and all that, right? It's only like the third, fourth, fifth day, okay? And all of this energy is so strong, and we'll be growing towards that even from before. So that's why just be prepared for it, lah. Okay? So how best to use it? I just split the two simple timelines here, regardless of Chinese New Year Lunar celebrations. Okay, from officially from now, about now, but officially from January the 5th in a few days' time up to about the 19th. Okay, so that's when just really be sure where those areas of change are. Now, of course, if it's something that's already ongoing and something that's already started to shift, you can enact those shifts. You don't have to wait, right? This is just a general guideline. But in case it's something that you have not already thought of doing, or you've not really thought in depth and analyzed it, so you can use this timing from about the 5th to the 19th to identify and to really be certain of it. Now, anchor deep, think long term. Right? Think what is good for you, what it is not only good for you individually, but collectively with the people that you have with you, either your family or the tribe that you call family, because soulmates, for example, right? May not be blood ties, but they are soulmates. So how will it serve this bunch and the community that you're in, the industry they're in, for example, right? In the long term. So anchor down to that. Then the second half of the month from around January 20th onwards, okay, where we meet the middle of the ox month itself, because that's when the energy will peak all the way up to the official transition to the snake year. Now this is when you enforce it, because it's also going to be supported by the strength of the destruction between the two animal signs in the second half of the month. And also, if we look at it from planet Uranus, where Uranus will stop moving, that's where it will be exercising its tremendous revolutionary energy, okay, into the ensuing following 2 weeks as well. So that's where you do the change, you enforce it, and you use it to realign. And remember, some of it, or in fact, every time there is change involved, it may not be comfortable. It will be something that we have to be willing to undergo. Okay, so that's why I just summarize it as embrace the future. Just look at it as a way to necessary to welcome better whatever future life that you desire and that you've been building already, and that they're finalizing and putting certain final touches to the structural foundational change, which is a theme of 2024 that we're ending. Okay, so remember that. And with that, so that's the wrap of today's sharing of this very, very important month. Okay, like I said, right? So if you want to work with me individually, and of course, if you're willing to do that, and you're also seeking for advice generally, right, on your party, and with that, because this party premium, the reason why it's party premium is because it works with the annual feng shui activations. What we do is that once we get to the annual outlook itself and the way the annual energies, in this case the wood snake, is affecting you, and also giving you the opportunities, right, for whichever way, because it's all personalized, right? And then after that, we go annual feng shui hunting. We look into specific spots, and of course there's some spots which are much more auspicious one. Okay, we know that a lot of the wood areas, sectors cannot be used, so it will not be those, right? That's why we want to be able to do this. And of course, the cusp of the new year is always when we want to activate energy. So for example, this Sunday and Saturday, right, in Jessie's annual talk, right, she will also share the year-long activations, which is usable for everyone. Okay, of course, that's not personalized, and it will be very, very exciting to use those energies. And yeah, that's all I can share for now, right? Be at the annual talk, because there is some alignment going on lah, which is very beautiful, and we're so blessed to be able to be aligned that way. So anyway, but going back to this, so if you want to work with me personally and you're seeking for advice, and then also when we get to the point of establishing how best to grow with the wood snake energies, then we will have specific activations in mind. And because when we do this, we need to activate and have the activation done in the early part of the year. So for the past 2 years already, a lot of pre-activations. So I have to be honest, right? So a lot of it was done in November and also December for my existing clients and the new ones that jump on board 1 or 2 months ago, right? This is really the last phase of it, because if we miss January, right, and if we miss activating February, then there is very, very little point in working with annual feng shui on a personalized scale like this. So that's why it is not available anymore, right? And then for the rest of the year, I will manage the portfolio of Parzi Premium clients, especially those who have Parzi Premium Plus, because we will also continue on for the second half of the year. And remember, the key activation is in the first half of the year, first couple of months of the year. In this case, it's brought forward into pre-activation before the year even begins, right? And then for this one, it's a follow-through on how best we can work with the autumn and also then the next cycle of winter energies that we come, that will then give you a good support, right, for the upcoming year. So that's why this is positioned that way for the keeping in touch in the consultation. There will be one that is targeted for the mid-year after this kickoff, right? But if you just want to start off the year right, then this is enough already, and see how that goes and how helpful it is for you. Now, caveat, right? Because the scheduling is tight, so of course the deadline of it is January 10th. Right, there will be no more subscriptions accepted for that. And also, you don't have to, if you feel that you are okay with just a regular Parzi consult, then just arrange that, right? Because you don't have to go annual feng shui hunting if you don't need to, right? Because there are many ways you can tap into generalized activations for everyone that will be revealed in the annual talk. And if you sign up for Power Up, you'll be designing for yourself based on your own chart, right? Activations that strategies and all that align with your astrology chart. Also annual feng shui activations on a different perspective a little bit, but it's also nonetheless as powerful. And then of course you'll be matching it to the date selection information that you'll be learning in Power Up as well. So if you're doing that already, that is already sufficient. And then if you think that you can design your own and then you would like to do that, then please don't sign up for Parzi Premium, right? And if you think you can handle astrology and you are a student yourself, then of course you don't need to sign up for any consultation, okay? But just so you know that this one has a time expiry on it, okay? So that's one. And then of course, speaking of the annual talk, right? So let's just really go through that. If you have not already booked your online spot for it, please do so, right? And because it's happening in a few days' time, right? So Jessie will share, right, everything, right? And of course, we have, we have insight to what's being prepared. We are also helping prepare the talk and all that. A lot of exciting information there. So don't miss this, okay? This is happening this weekend. English session on Saturday the 4th, and then a Cantonese session, if you like, an encore for those of you who understand Cantonese, on the 5th. A lot of people buy both if they are fluent in English and also somewhat fluent in Cantonese is enough already, yeah? Like me, like that, right? Or even less understanding of Cantonese, right? You can also get an encore for this second event here in Cantonese, to be clear. So don't buy the wrong one if you're only an English speaker or a foreign student, okay? So because the Sunday talk is entirely in Cantonese with spatterings of English and other languages, all right? But it will be a good encore if you understand both. So this, please, the link is there if you have not already purchased it, and there will be many of you in the session with us. So that's going to be very exciting this weekend, really, really coming up, yeah? So that's wonderful. And yes, with that, a wrap to my sharing today. A little bit longer, but there's a lot of emphasis and a lot of information right at the end of the final month right here of the Dragon year. Very, very powerful year it's been. So please, 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 please maximize it to the best that you can, okay? So that, again, for those technical reasons that I shared with you, right, you can welcome and work best with the snake energy also, okay? Wonderful, thank you. You're welcome, Felicia. You're welcome, Tammy. Yes, see, Christine. All right, Kristen, and many of you this coming weekend, okay? And for those of you who've been joining live, I appreciate it, right? We have Jack here, we have Diana here as well, Mei Yong, Alexis, Sunita as well on my side. I appreciate it. And again, if you can share it, if you have not done that already with the people that you know on your timeline, if you think the information like this outlook can benefit everyone, please do so. And of course, you see I have already rolled out, right, my summary of each animal sign for 2025 in a very practical, summarized way of how best to work with that sign. If you have it anywhere in your parts chart, that means you're born in that year, month, day, or also hour. All of this is available, right? Nowadays, you can just plot your parts chart and see. If you don't know, if you're not familiar with the full chart, if you're not familiar with all the animal signs in your chart, just use any of the free plotter like ours, for example, okay, and you'll be able to find out that information, and each one will be able to tap into the energy of it differently with a slightly different strategy. So that's been rolled out through my page as well. So keep looking out for the rest of the animal signs when they're released also, and for other information that we'll be releasing through all our social media pages, including of course the hot Jessie Lee page as well, okay, on other New Year update in related info, okay. But for now, for the outlook of the January Fire Ox month 2025, right, this is a wrap. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support. And one more thing, if you have not followed me officially on my Kong Yu public figure page, if you can do that, it will be much appreciated as well. I thank you for that in advance, okay. But for now, it's a wrap. Thanks very much to Nicole for the usual work behind the scenes, including, of course, the design work on the backgrounds and so on. Right, our final one for Wood Dragon year. Right, big thanks to Nicole. Okay, and thank you for joining me for the session. Okay, it's a wrap. Take care. Until the next time, bye-bye.